What's up, fam? Time for another out of this world story from rSpace. Wife took the baby to another country, feeling hopeless. Around a month ago, my wife told me she was going to have lunch with some friends and took the baby and never returned home. I called the police, who eventually determined that she had taken a direct flight back to her home country of South Korea, along with our 1-year-old son. Our marriage had been on the rocks, but it never felt like it had gotten so bad that she would do something like this. So when it happened, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I am currently a student at a top business school, which only lasts 2 years, and felt that once I graduate, I would have a well-paying job and be able to live wherever and start a new life on our own. We had been living in a condo in the same building as my mother, who had purchased the home for us to help us get started since I would have no income while attending the MBA program. My mother is a bit tough on people, which is an understatement, so it was difficult for my wife to suddenly move out of her home country and relocate to the US, where she had no support network or close friends. And I constantly felt stuck between my mom and my wife. My mom has also been through a lot and got divorced in the aftermath of my younger sister's death, which led to both my parents blaming and suing the crap out of each other. I always sympathized with my mother though, since I felt my dad was the genius of all of our family problems growing up. Unlike most stories on this subreddit, I feel the fault is entirely my own. My wife was an exceptional mother and truly cared about me. There isn't really anything I can fault her for. We established early on in our marriage that my wife would not work, since she had no interest in doing so, and that I would find my path in the world and make good money. Due to the aforementioned death of my sister, which occurred very early on in my undergraduate experience, I eventually failed out of school, which precluded me from high-paying industries such as finance or consulting. After years of feeling lost and hopeless, I eventually adopted the mindset that I could still become anyone, and hustled my way through working at early-stage startups, tons of volunteer work, attended extension schools, and took difficult classes while earning all A's to complete my unfinished degree, and set my sights on the best business school programs and eventually got accepted after 4 consecutive years of applying and getting rejected. It was shortly before I was accepted that I met my wife. She got pregnant, which spurred us to get married quickly, and I had no qualms about it because I loved her. I still love her, and knew she was a good person. After our marriage in Seoul, we moved back to the US, and shortly thereafter I was accepted to school and the future looked bright. I made a lot of mistakes and always used school and the pressure on me to secure a good job as a crutch to do things I enjoyed, such as playing video games after everyone went to sleep and not doing certain chores. It's Corona and everyone is stuck at home, and video games are the primary means I keep in touch with my closest friends. It does ruin my sleep schedule on weekends, so my wife is doing a lot more than usual, and I regret all of it. I don't do drugs, hell I don't even drink, but I have enjoyed both heavily in the past, which my wife is aware of. That said, I made great efforts to make sure everyone was happy, and we got into occasional big fights, but nothing violent, although the reasons for those fights were always surrounding some sort of shortcoming I had. If I could go back in time, I would certainly do things differently, and if my wife gave me another chance, I'd certainly wake up every day with an earnest desire to be the best husband and father. My school places very well into finance and consulting, industries which I had planned to enter, but gave up on that idea when my baby was born. When I held my son for the first time, I realized that money and all this other crap in life was truly meaningless, that everything I had ever sought in my empty and pathetic life was right there in my arms. Due to COVID, I am able to take classes remotely, and the only thing that is even keeping me alive at this point is the hope of seeing my family again. I'm still trying my best to maintain good grades, still trying my best to interact with classmates, but each second of each day is time I won't ever get back with my son, and it's killing me. I have contacted my wife numerous times, and she has only replied to me during this span with 4 messages, with the main point being that she needs time to figure things out. I am concerned because my wife has overstayed her visa in the US and was in the process of obtaining a green card, but has left the country before the process was completed, so she and I are both aware she cannot return to the US. So my initial thought was that she did all this so that we could relocate elsewhere, and she could always reapply for a green card at any time, or I could just find work in another country, since it seems most schools will offer online classes for the indefinite future. Normally, in these situations, the State Department advises the left-behind parent to initiate the Hague Convention, which is spearheaded by the US and will initiate a process to locate the child and initiate a return of the child back to his or her country of origin. However, the US doesn't actually have any policy power when it comes to these matters in other countries, and how each country handles those requests can vary greatly. In all countries, however, the parent who took the child can refuse to abide the Hague Convention, in which case you now have to go through the country's legal system. So in my case, it would be to go to Seoul Family Court. Part of me wants to believe my wife, that she simply needs more time to herself, and that eventually we will reconcile and move past this. Despite all the reasons she may have for doing this, however, I don't feel that it's right she has withheld the baby from me for this long, nor has made any effort to start a conversation with me on how to move past from this. So I am increasingly worried that she is talking with lawyers and trying to initiate a divorce on her own to cut me out of the picture. It gets complicated because our marriage is not registered in Korea, only in the US, and our baby has a US passport, so I believe the baby can only stay in Korea for a maximum of 90 days. My wife also doesn't have a job or much money, and she is not staying with her family, so I'm quite certain she is staying with her best friend because they have a large apartment and have a baby as well, so things she would need immediately, such as diapers, would be readily available. So when I look at all those things, I feel like I can't remain out here very long anyway, but she also can't return back to our home in the US, even if she wanted to. I am losing my mind trying to even make a plan. I have started shopping for lawyers in Korea as of today, and will weigh legal options to proceed, but I really don't want a divorce or fight for custody. I just want my family back, and I'd be willing to do whatever it takes to make our relationship work. Sorry if I'm writing too much, but I have no one to really talk to, and this is the most lonely I have ever felt in my entire life. Once my wife left, I took the next flight I could to South Korea and finished the 2 weeks quarantine at a government-designated hotel, and can now freely move about and meet with lawyers and friends for support. Based on what I have read online regarding these instances, it seems the odds are in my favor if it does go to the court, but I cannot risk losing. There is no point to living if I cannot see my child. I wasn't the best husband, but I truly was a good dad, and I would give my life for my child without a second thought. I wish my wife would just talk to me and let me know what she's thinking, or what she wants, but she refuses to and just tells me she needs time. If the baby spends a year in Korea, the court will rule that the baby has now adjusted to this environment, and therefore must remain here, regardless of which parent is right or wrong. Where the child is most adjusted is the main consideration in both the Hague Convention process as well as in Seoul Family Court. However, to my understanding from the State Department website, the consideration can still be outweighed if the final judgment could result in the separation between the child and the primary caregiver. In terms of financials, I would be the primary caregiver, but in terms of actual time spent with the child, that would be my wife. I am initiating the legal process as soon as I can, and the lawyers I've talked to seem to think Hague is a waste of time, and I should go straight to filing lawsuits. I am only doing this because I feel hopeless and out of options, and at the very least, lawyers can initiate a line of communication between my wife and I. Am I doing the right thing? I don't want my wife to look at this and have this be the thing that breaks the camel's back on her deciding to go with divorce, if that hasn't already happened in her mind and she's biding time. Although a year is a long time, the State Department representative I spoke with told me that I should start the legal process as quickly as possible, since even if I do file the suit, it can be months before my case is heard in court. When the police informed me that my wife and baby had left to South Korea, I spent the next couple nights in our empty house, surrounded by all the baby's toys and books, my wife's things, and the silence is really what kills you. There was no longer the normal everyday happenings that I had taken for granted, like seeing my baby laugh, or holding him to give him a bath. Despite everything I had been through in life, I had never felt a pain that great, and it's the kind I don't think you could ever get used to. I really felt how lucky I was, and how unforgivingly precious something as simple as hearing your child's voice is, even if they are crying, and how these little things are actually the only things worth living for. Anyone who is a parent here, mom or dad, knows how special that connection to your baby is, and how nothing can replace it. To have something come into your life that truly teaches you how to be completely selfless, to understand what it means to be willing to go to any length for another life, to feel affection for someone that you had never realized could be possible, like your eyes are seeing colors beyond the visible spectrum for the first time.